This is Ebru Africa News. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Rina Shivesi. In the headlines.
It was a serious request. They terminated the case against Ambassador Mathaura, realizing they got it wrong, realizing their key witness that they put forward as a witness of truth at confirmation had lied.
Ruto's case adjourned. Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto back home after 2 days at the ICC. Syria conflict. Troops take on Malula town as debate on US military intervention continues. South Africa crime. Rival gangs engage each other, leaving children exposed to crime. And Turkey protest. Police fire tear gas as thousands hold anti-government protests in Istanbul.
The International Criminal Court has officially adjourned the hearing of Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto and Joshua Arap-Sang's trial following delay in arrival of witnesses. Meanwhile, the Deputy President this morning arrived back home.
William Samuel Ruto, you have been charged in...
While at Hague, the Deputy President and co-accused journalist Joshua Arap-Sang pleaded not guilty to charges of murder, deportation and persecution of people in Kenya's 2007-2008 poll violence.
Not guilty.
Thank you very much. You may resume your seat.
Who is responsible for the violence? The prosecution asserts...
Bensouda said the prosecution witnesses were expected to arrive in Hague today and asked the three-judge bench to adjourn the trials until Tuesday next week.
The most responsible for the crimes of murder,
Alleged witness intimidation is an extremely sensitive issue to the ICC trials of Ruto and Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta.
With a common purpose. From the Kenya Bar. My name is Evans Alan.
Several witnesses already have pulled out of the case.
To come to the conclusion that witnesses have deceived them, that their case is wrong, and to drop the case against William Ruto without further agony and pain. That is a difficult decision, Your Honor, but it's the honourable action for the prosecutor to do.
Ruto's lead counsel Karim Khan took issue with the adjournment and accused the office of the prosecutor for not being prepared for the case.
It was a serious request. They terminated the case against Ambassador Mathaura, realizing they got it wrong, realizing their key witness that they put forward as a witness of truth at confirmation had lied. It was their words that the witness had lied. And I hope that decision, although we had to drag them kicking and screaming to make the right decision in the case against Ambassador Mathaura, we hope that courage will remain and that they will do the right thing in the case of the Deputy President.
Ruto 46 is charged with masterminding deadly post-election violence 5 years ago.
Not guilty.
He is the senior-most politician today to face ICC judges. And his case comes after the Kenyan Parliament and Senate voted to pull out of the ICC.
Between the two of us, about an hour.
Very well, madam.
Now, the news of Kenya's Deputy President appearing at the International Criminal Court for Crimes Against Humanity has been met with mixed reactions in Kenya. The majority of his supporters terming the move as inappropriate, adding that he was not involved in any crime related to the post-election violence in 2007. Our reporter Agnes Gakunga toured Ruto's home village in the Rift Valley and files this report. Moving on, Syria government troops yesterday beat back rebels and advanced into Malula town near Damascus. This continues as the debate on whether the US should initiate a military intervention on the country rages on.
Syrian government troops on Wednesday beat back rebels and advanced into Malula town. The regime has used the word terrorist to its opponents ever since the start of an uprising against President Bashar al-Assad's rule in March 2011. The army's advance comes a day after rebels announced they would withdraw from Malula, but that this was conditional on pro-regime forces not taking their place. On Sunday, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights and Residents said rebel forces linked to Al-Qaeda had overrun Malula. Civilians started fleeing the town nearly a week ago, fearing an imminent escalation.
A car bomb exploded yesterday outside a building that once housed the U.S. consulate in the Libyan city of Benghazi, in what an official said was a warning that diplomats are not safe.
The blast seriously damaged the foreign ministry building but left no casualties and came on the anniversary of a militant attack on the current U.S. consulate in Benghazi that killed 4 Americans, including the ambassador. Last year's attack in Benghazi had itself been planned to coincide with the anniversary of the September 11, 2001 attack. A foreign ministry official said the U.S. consulate had been located in the building during the reign of King Idris, but was closed a few years after Muammar Gaddafi overthrew the monarch in 1969. The ministry officials say those responsible for it want to send a message that diplomatic offices are not secure in Benghazi. The city cradle of the 2011 revolt that toppled and killed Gaddafi has been hit by a wave of deadly attacks in recent months, targeting officers in the security force and members of the judiciary, many of whom served with the previous regime.
The Prime Minister of Central African Republic's interim government, Nicolas Tiangai, yesterday condemned fighting involving armed supporters of the country's ousted president in the north and west, where fighting has killed over 100 people.
Armed supporters of the ousted president of Central African Republic today controlled villages in the northwest of the country. The Prime Minister highly condemned the situation.
The government condemns these callous crimes, which once again constitute grave human rights violations, of which the population are victims.
Military officials and residents reached by telephone from Bangui reported no fighting on Tuesday morning in the region 250 kilometers northwest of the capital, where Bozize was ousted by the rebel Seleka coalition on March 24th. General Bozize's spokesman Levi Yakete said that the battles against Seleka forces were waged by troops who considered themselves part of the former regular army loyal to Bozize, who ruled for 10 years after a coup in 2003 and was twice elected back into office. The PM said that the government is with the families that have lost their loved ones during this time of crisis and will support them.
The government offers its condolences to the families affected and reiterates its support. It calls on the population to support it in the process of disarmament and military withdrawal underway to definitively pacify our country.
The latest clashes worsen a humanitarian situation that has been chaotic since Seleka took power, and Jotodia's forces are accused of repeated looting and atrocities against civilians like other armed movements in the country. Last week, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees reported that thousands of people had been displaced and at least 8 villages were razed to the ground during recent violence in the north, which is largely lawless territory.
Now, members of the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union in South Africa have rejected the offered wage rise of 8% and will now return to the negotiating table to get a better deal for its members.
Most striking workers in the gold mine sector are expected to return to work after accepting a new 8% increase in their wages, said the South Africa's National Union of Mine Workers. But the AMCU has rejected the 8% salary rise given by their employers.
Our message to the Chamber of Mine: don't force down your 8% that you agreed with NUM down to the throats of AMCO members. If Chamber doesn't want to agree with that, then we have to forward them with 48 hours of a notice for strike.
The union president has warned the Chamber of Mines not to underestimate the power of the united working class, and said the union would continue wage talks to discuss its demands, including a 12,500 rands monthly salary for underground gold mine workers. Mine workers belonging to the AMCU say they will go on strike until their demands are met. On the 3rd of September, nearly 80,000 disgruntled gold miners embarked on a strike across the country, demanding a wage hike in the range of some 60 to 150%.
The people of Turkana who live in one of Kenya's driest areas have something to smile about after massive water was struck yesterday. According to scientists, the people of Turkana have been sitting on massive undiscovered water reservoirs that could meet the needs of the entire country for at least 70 years. We do it again. So we do it again. The people of Turkana who live in one of Kenya's driest areas have something to smile about after massive water was struck yesterday. According to scientists, the people of Turkana have been sitting on massive undiscovered water reservoirs that could meet the needs of the entire country for at least 70 years. Turkana is now home to a reserve of about 250 billion cubic meters of water, and which is naturally replenished at the rate of about 3.4 billion cubic meters per year. This is potentially Africa's biggest freshwater underground source, yet larger than that found in sub-Saharan Africa's driest country, Namibia, last year. Now, this could increase the country's share of accessible water by 8.5% and is likely to double the amount of water that is available for consumption today, ultimately improving the lives of Kenyans living in water-scarce areas. Just last year, oil was discovered in the very same region. Moving on, Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe yesterday swore in a 62-member cabinet of ministers and the deputies that critics say rewards veteran hardliners for his party's commanding victory in the disputed July election.
A jovial ceremony yesterday that brought into the cabinet many veteran party personalities accused of human rights violations since Mugabe led the nation to independence in 1980. Amid a worsening economic crisis, former Environment Minister Francis Nema became the head of the Black Empowerment Ministry, tasked by Mugabe to push ahead with a program to take over 51% control of the remaining foreign businesses. The program has scared away foreign investment badly needed for economic reconstruction and restoring bankrupt health, education and public services. Mugabe did not retain any members of the opposition who had been in a coalition with Mugabe after the last violent disputed elections in 2008. Patrick Chinamasa takes over as finance minister, replacing Tendai Biti, a member of the defeated Movement for Democratic Change.
The challenges are enormous, the responsibilities are enormous, but I'm confident that we can overcome them. We have to grow the economy, we have to increase indigenous participation in this economy. As stakeholders, they have to be stakeholders in the economy, but the people also understand that we are going to do all those things under a regime of sanctions.
Headliner Jonathan Moyo, the architect of sweeping laws to regulate the media in 2002, returned to the key information and broadcasting ministry. Moyo previously held the portfolio from 2000 to 2008. During that time, he crafted several controversial acts widely seen as restricting freedom of speech.
Those Zimbabweans who are working for pirate radio stations, and now we know there are also pirate television stations, should stop doing so, and that those who are funding these pirate broadcasting stations, whether radio or television, should stop funding them.
These now are...
The Movement for Democratic Change said Mugabe had appointed a dead cabinet with members who served in ministerial posts since independence in 1980 and who were responsible for the nation's meltdown.
Turkish police fired tear gas and plastic bullets at thousands of people who gathered in Istanbul this week to protest the death of a 22-year-old demonstrator in southern Turkey.
Thousands of people rallied on the outskirts of Taksim Square, scene of unprecedented mass anti-government protest in June, as police prevented them from entering the square before pushing them back using tear gas and plastic bullets. The tear gas disrupted a football match between the national under-21s and their Swedish counterparts taking place near the square. Ahmet Atakan died in hospital Monday night after being hit in the head by a tear gas canister during clashes between police and around 150 protesters in the southeastern city of Antakya in Hatay province near the Syrian border. Local officials disputed that account, saying Atakan had died after falling from a rooftop where he had been throwing stones at police. A preliminary autopsy found Atakan died of generalized trauma and cerebral hemorrhaging. Protests were also planned Tuesday against police violence in the Turkish capital Ankara, where for several days university students have clashed with police over a municipal project to build a road across part of the campus of the Middle East Technical University.
In the South African township of Manenberg, drug-related gang violence has long been a problem. Recently, the tough war has seen 16 schools temporarily shut down, keeping thousands of children at home for 2 days and thus exposing them to crime.
Broad daylight in Cape Town's Manenberg. Gang violence is part and parcel of life in this township, but it's never been this bad. In June, around 4 shootings took place every week. In July, there was a total of 31 in just 1 week alone. No one can escape this climate of fear. 16 schools recently closed, keeping 12,000 children at home for 2 days.
When they are shooting, sometimes I hear, but sometimes I make my ears close.
Brenda Manuel is the principal at Rio Grande Primary School and watches with frustration as many of her students enter a life of crime.
It's definitely part of the cycle. I mean, I've been here 38 years and I mean, a lot of my ex-pupils are running with guns out there, you know, and it's very sad.
Shootings have dipped in recent weeks thanks to a peace agreement between 2 rival gangs, the Americans and the Hard Livings. A heavy police presence has also been set up, especially around schools where safety corridors have been created to protect students from the violence.
For instance, the school that we're in at the moment, if they walk out the front gate, they are confronted with a gang to the left and a gang to the right, opposing gangs shooting at each other.
Outside of the school walls, children are well versed in how to survive.
You can't even scout your friend to go play with them. You must lay on the ground in the house, under the bed. If you hear the shot outside, you must run.
Drugs are cheap in Manenberg and 1 in 3 residents is thought to be a user. With the township stretching just 9 kilometres squared, there's money to be made and the battle for territory is fierce.
And they see we stand in the corner, then they come for us. But we just do the thing. We ain't scared. It's time to retire.
That gang member may be ready to retire, but there's a steady stream of new recruits. All but 5 members of a class of 40 at the Rio Grande Primary School have one relative who belongs to a gang. The shootings may have died down for the moment in Manenberg, but there's little hope this fragile peace will last long.
Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf held discussions with India's Foreign Minister Salman Khurshid yesterday over bilateral, regional and international issues of mutual interest during her 5-day visit to the country.
Sirleaf is also scheduled to hold discussions with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in order to strengthen business relations between the two countries. Sirleaf is being accompanied by a high-level delegation, including the Liberian Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Finance, Agriculture, Commerce and Industry, Information, Culture and Tourism, Lands, Mines and Energy, and Gender Development, besides the senior government officials and representatives of apex trade bodies. The Indira Gandhi Prize for Peace, Disarmament and Development for the year 2012 will be conferred upon President Sirleaf today. The prize is being awarded to her for serving as an example and inspiration to women in Africa and beyond, and for ensuring the return of peace, democracy and development in Liberia. Relations between India and Liberia are close and friendly, marked by a growing economic engagement.
Now, police and medical sources confirm that a coordinated car and suicide bomb attack on a Shiite mosque in the Iraqi capital killed at least 33 people on Wednesday evening.
Worshippers were leaving the mosque after evening prayers when the car bomb exploded, and as onlookers rushed to help the wounded, a suicide bomber blew himself up in the midst. Policemen saw a second man fumbling to detonate an explosive belt and managed to stop him, but an angry mob overcame them and stabbed the would-be suicide bomber to death. A further 55 people were wounded, some critically in the blast, which took place in the northwestern Kasra district of Baghdad.
They bombed the mosque and the bodies of the people were scattered all around the place. People's shops and houses were damaged. Why did this happen? We ask Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki and head of Shiite coalition Ibrahim al-Jafari to find us a solution. God cannot accept such an act. Each house has 4 or 5 martyrs.
It was not immediately clear who had carried out the attack, but Sunni militants who view Shias as non-believers have been regaining momentum and striking on a near-daily basis this year. More than 2 years of civil war in neighboring Syria have brought sectarian tensions to the boil in Iraq and the wider region. About 800 Iraqis were killed in August, according to the United Nations, with more than a third of the deadly attacks happening in Baghdad.
In Kenya, a row is simmering between the Lands Ministry and the National Land Commission over a controversial decision to allocate close to 300 hectares of public land. Hey! I'm even running out of acres. What am I saying? Hectares. So here we go. In Kenya, a row is simmering between the Lands Ministry and the National Land Commission over a controversial decision to allocate close to 300 acres of public land in Kibera to a private organization, the trustee of the Nubian community.
Kibera, the second largest informal settlement in Africa, is home to thousands of families. And it's a section of this land that is the center of controversy. The land, close to 300 acres, has been allocated to trustees of the Nubian community. Residents of Kibera marched to the Ministry of Lands and Housing, protesting the move and expressing fear of eviction.
Kibera is home to very many people from different tribes. Allocating land to just one tribe isn't fair. The Cabinet Secretary has allocated land to just one section of people, which is not fair. What happens to the rest of us? Where will we go?
The National Land Commission says it did not approve the allocation of the land to the said trustees. And the Commission fears this could ignite violence among residents of the biggest slum in the region if the newcomers decide to evict those deemed tenants.
Notice that last year.
According to a Gazette notice dated back last year, the government has allocated the land to the Nubian community. What about the rest of us? Where will we go? We have to live here with our children. Where do we move to? We asked the Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu to come out and address this issue.
Is that okay? Nionyeshe kama mnasema ni sawa.
Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu has assured residents there will be no evictions.
Tafuta hii viongozi tuje tukae pamoja na hawa wengine wa Nubi.
We shall come to the ground and have discussions with all parties involved, and these land issues will be sorted. The Nubian community will not evict anyone. There is no need to panic. The government has rolled out a program to ensure all Kenyans get their rightful piece of land, and I'm here to assure you that is exactly what we will do.
The Nairobi County government has also dismissed the allocation as irregular, saying much as the aim is noble, the law has to be followed. Whatever the case, all the residents from Kibera want is a surety that they will be not evicted from their land, the only home they have known for decades.
Now, the martial art of capoeira is not widely known as taekwondo. Yep. Now, the martial art of capoeira is not widely known as taekwondo or karate outside of Brazil, but the graceful dance-like fighting style is changing lives of street children in the war-torn Democratic Republic of Congo.
Kinshasa, capital of Democratic Republic of Congo, a city of more than 7 million people, is a host of 20,000 street children. Capoeira has been used to change the lives of these children.
There were many who came as children of the street, often a little too aggressive, but thanks to capoeira was able to change the ideas of many children of the street, which later became more quiet, sweet, and smiling, homely, social.
Ninja grew up living in the streets of Kinshasa, but now he has a new life and passion.
Capoeira give me a lot of things. First, discipline and mutual respect. That are the foundation of this practice. I would like to learn capoeira with many young people. Capoeira, you know, for me, it's a passion.
It can take many years to become a master of capoeira, since it requires an almost uncanny sense of space, a flexible body, and a calm mind to be able to fully express oneself. The Brazilian embassy in DRC, which has been supporting the art, has been impressed by the results.
I'm very proud that this Brazilian practice, this Brazilian sport, implanted in the DRC, and it can make a difference in the lives of these children.
A vast country with immense resources, the Democratic Republic of Congo has been at the center of war that has claimed more than 3 million lives and left the country in a grip of humanitarian crisis.
Moving on, a giant robot dragon and world's largest bike and the smallest roadworthy car have all earned their places in the 2014 Guinness World Record books. The book is on sale from today.
A giant robot dragon significantly had presence among those that featured in the World Record book. This is another of the amazing new world records to make it into the Book of Guinness World Records 2014. It is the world's largest rideable motorcycle built by Fabio Reggiani in Italy. It's 6 times larger than a normal motorbike. According to the editor-in-chief of the famous book, there was a careful consideration and selection.
Guinness World Record!
British record holders are really well represented this year, and as eccentric and as quirky as ever. There's James Brown from Derbyshire, for example, who cleaned up this year with the largest collection of vacuum cleaners with more than 300 different items. And Leilani Franco from London, she's just an amazing contortionist, a multi-record holder this year. Things like chest rolls, handstands, she does amazing things with her body.
Also among the qualifiers was the smallest roadworthy car.
It's built pretty much from scratch. I used a lot of different parts to make it. The body is from a 57 Chevy Bel Air mock-up that was used for a stroller. And so I cut it out to fit the rest of the body. I designed the frame from scratch, and I used as a power plant a quad engine from a child's quad.
As Star Wars films have inspired collectors of memorabilia in a way that few other movie franchises have achieved. It therefore takes something special for one individual to be named as having the world's largest collection of memorabilia related to the series. The Guinness World Records 2014 book edition is on sale now at all major retailers.
And in sports, Afghanistan won its first international soccer title Wednesday with a 2-0 win over regional powerhouse India in the South Asian Football Federation Championship.
Car horns blared and some Afghans waved national flags on the streets. The gunfire continued for about an hour after the win, this time in celebration rather than in anger. Afghanistan had just won its first international trophy in football. The victory brought a rare moment of unity to this ethnically fractious, war-weary nation. It's goals from Mustafa and Zanjar Ahmad that sealed the victory for Afghanistan in Nepal's capital, Kathmandu. Afghans gathered in homes, restaurants, offices and even small markets to watch the game. President Ahmad Karzai's office tweeted a photo of him watching the players celebrate their win. The Afghans, who were founding members of the Asian Football Confederation in 1954, have a long history in football, but recently re-emerged on the world scene after decades of war. The country has been getting better in recent years, rising the FIFA rankings to number 139 on the latest list.
And that's it on Ebru Africa. Many thanks for watching. I'm Rina Shivesi.